Sure.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Beautiful. So let's start over. I've already recorded this, but this is awesome. So, okay. So today, what is today? May 13th, I think is what I said. And welcome to our Brave Thinking call. So let's go ahead and get started with both of you guys with accountability and action steps from last week. And then we'll dive in from there. We'll see where we go today. Who would like to begin?
I can go. I was gonna
Okay.
go.
Sure.
So my action step was to take time every morning to read the scriptures or listen to a talk or whatever, to see how it affected my day. And it's been awesome. And I don't know, like, I was trying to think. So this is what my experience was. Like, I have felt so crammed, and like I would get to like the end of the night and it's only like 6 o'clock. And I'm like, we still have like 2 more hours of the day. I don't know what's happening. And then like the next day it happened again. And I'm like, where is all this time coming from? And part of the thing, like Kirsty was sick last week, so I canceled our staff because they can't come if anybody's sick. And I don't know why, but we didn't have staff. Like, we only had staff one day this week, and it's tomorrow. So we haven't had like Xander's stuff in the evening, which usually we don't eat till after, which is like at 7, and then by then it's bedtime. So I think that's part of it. So I don't know if that was like some grand design to like create all of this time in my day. But no, I've noticed like I've gone to bed and I'm just like, oh, I'm like not stressed out. I don't feel like I was rushing around all day, all this stuff. Anyway, so it works. So I'm definitely gonna have to keep making sure that I make time to do that every day, because that's been awesome. So thank you for the suggestion.
Yay! Another testimonial for scripture study. It's powerful. It's powerful when we put these principles into action in our lives, right? I was listening to, there's a Bob Proctor's doing a free training this week. If you guys, about financial prosperity, if you guys are interested in his stuff, I can send you the link and you can sign up. They're all recorded. It's every day he's doing like an hour-long recording, and they're taking them down Monday. So if you want information, I can send that to you. But I was listening to his recording from Monday, and he was just talking about how like we can learn about principles or universal laws or whatever the thing is taking action and applying it. And I'm like, oh, how many times?
Jackie, you're frozen again.
Well, I'm glad it was her, because I thought it was my internet that was going weird.
Okay, still here. I keep like you keep disappearing off my little thing, but
Well, I turned off my camera because she was being all weird. So I thought it was me.
oh, I see your name now. Oh, there she is again.
Hi
Yay.
guys, internet issues. Internet. I think hopefully I've got it figured out. So, okay. Anyway, I probably froze in the middle of that, but that's okay. Let's switch over to Tasha. So if you want to share with us how your action steps were this week, or if there were any struggles, like just, yeah, whatever you want to share.
Well, I was supposed to consciously forgive people when it came to piano. And I was supposed to pray and consecrate my performance to him. And Sunday went like well. We didn't do a ton of songs, but the songs they did was just fun and lively, and I don't know, it wasn't stressful, and I wasn't nervous or freaked out or let people bug me. And I've been like actually taking time every day and set a timer to like just play the piano, just to play the piano. So
awesome.
So that's where I'm at.
Yay!
With that, I'm like, otherwise, my head's full of stuff. Trying to figure
Excellent.
things out. I don't know. There's a
Excellent.
lot
Okay.
of pondering right now.
Okay. Okay. Totally okay. I get that. I'm in a similar space right now in my life. So awesome. Okay. Can we just like celebrate with you for just a minute? Because that's a huge accomplishment. Like huge progress moved forward that you moved forward in this week. Like you just, because it was so stressful for you thinking about this piano thing for Sunday, right? And look at all the things that shifted for you, right? It's like it was easy and it was fun and we just had a good time on Sunday, and that you've been setting aside time every day just to play, like not because you have to, not because of whatever. Like, oh, that's so good, Tasha.
Thank you.
So good. I love watching you guys grow. It's so fun. Beautiful. Okay. I didn't really prepare anything for today, so today's going to be kind of a freestyle ad lib kind of a call, which is kind of fun. Sometimes it's fun to have structure and like a focus, but I think we'll just dig and play and see what's coming up for you guys. So, okay, so first question for you guys to ponder on is, when it comes to your mindset or maybe any challenges or whatever you're working on right now currently in your life, like what do you feel like is your number one challenge? You may want to take a minute to journal about that or just to ponder about that. So no rush to answer, but that's the first focus.
Do you want an answer?
Yeah. Whenever you're ready.
Right now, this was funny because I didn't know that this was the thing that was going to pop up in my head. I just found out yesterday. I was looking for the training that's the TBRI, the parent training that I just took. I have been thinking about becoming a practitioner, and so I just looked it up just to see like what it took to do the training. And they're registering for the next class. I think it starts next week and the registration goes through the end of May, but it's like $2,500 to take the class. And so that was the thing that popped up, was like, I need to figure out how to pay for the class. And so that is my biggest challenge, because our revenue sources are depleted at the moment. So that was the thing, figuring out how to pay for that.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. We'll come back to that. We'll let Tasha share with us her challenge, and then we'll see where this goes.
I don't know if I answered it right, but for me, my number one challenge with mindset is things have to make sense. Like if they don't make sense up here, then I feel like confusion.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, right now
Yeah.
I'm in a confused state. And then I have to ponder a lot, and then I
Okay.
go back and forth because is I have to make it make sense.
Yeah, that's valid. Like totally valid. I think any of us. So I think what you're talking about is, for me, what it sounds like is that's you're kind of talking about your learning style, right? We all have different learning styles. We have different strengths when it comes to how we learn. And learning style is almost like a specific language of learning, right? It's almost like love languages is how we give and receive love. There's different languages to that. And I think the same could be said about how we learn. And so, like me, Chelsea and I are, because I've known Chelsea for years, so I know Chelsea is a kinesthetic learner, and so am I. And so when Chelsea and I move, we are much more likely to learn something. Other people learn in different ways, right? Some people need to visually see the information. Other people need to like have it come at them from a really cerebral kind of a perspective. Other people are auditory learners. There's different ways that we all learn. And so that's what's coming to mind for you. Are you aware of what your learning style is?
I don't know. Because I
Okay.
like seeing something
Okay.
and then I can do it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. I have to see it first. Like, I just can't visualize it myself. Like, I have to see a picture
Yeah.
or watch something, and then it makes sense to me. And once it makes sense, then I can like go with it and I have no problems. But things have to make sense or I'm in confusion.
Yeah. Okay. So let me paint a scenario for you really quick and then tell me what your thoughts are about this. So if let's pretend that you didn't know how to change a tire. I don't know if you know how to change a tire, but let's pretend that you just don't. And somebody's teaching you how to change a tire. So option one for somebody teaching you how to change a tire is they're just modeling and demonstrating the whole process from start to finish. And you're just observing. You're right close by, you're watching all the little steps and you're like, oh, okay, cool. So that's the first way that somebody teaches you. The second way is they show you, but then they get you involved, right? They're like, okay, now I want you to take off this lug nut and I want you to take the tire off. I already showed you on the first one, now you do it the whole way through on the second tire, right? And you're like, oh, okay, cool. The third way is somebody just sitting down with you on the side of the road because your tire needs to be changed. And they're just verbally giving you instructions on, okay, now twist the lug nut. Somebody turns this direction and now do all of them and then take the tire off, right? Like, so they're just auditorily telling you things. What's another way? Those are the three main ways. There's other ways of learning, but let's start with those. Like, out of those three scenarios, which one do you think would be the best suited to you for you to get it?
I think showing me first and then me doing it.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So, and you were already alluding to this. I just wanted to come at this from a different angle to see if your visual learning style was consistent across the board. So I think that you're much more of a visual learner. And I think that's why intuitively when I've been teaching you guys, like I draw pictures for you. I don't generally draw pictures for Chelsea as I'm explaining things to her. Sometimes I do, but it's more for you. And I think that's just because that's more suited to your learning style. And so if you're confused about something, whatever you're pondering about and trying to understand right now, try to draw pictures of it so that you can understand what's going on. And if you don't understand something, if you can't put it into a picture, then I think that will actually help to highlight like what is missing for you in terms of like why you're getting so confused about whatever you're learning.
Okay. I don't know how you make a picture of it.
What are your
I'll have to think about it.
Yeah. not all visual learners need pictures necessarily. Pictures are just really helpful for visual people. Sometimes like seeing words written out instead of hearing the words being spoken to you is helpful. So what I mean by that is, like, I don't know what it is that you're pondering, but if you're, for example, if you're studying the scriptures and you're trying to learn a concept, a principle, a doctrine or something, if I was a visual learner, I would take that principle or that doctrine that I'm pondering and kind of mulling over in my mind, I would write those things out, write the thoughts out that I have about them, but I then would probably try to illustrate what I'm learning in a picture, because that suits a visual learner's strengths when it comes to learning.
Okay.
What are your thoughts
So,
about that?
curiosity, where do you guys fall when it comes to the changing the tire?
Yeah, great question. We're the doers. Yep, we're the get our hands dirty. That's the way that we learn.
Well, it's so funny because as you were talking about that, like when you're walking us through stuff and you're telling stories about it or whatever, that's super distracting for me. And I never thought about you doing it for Tasha, but I'm like, I just have to, like, I have to tune you out or I can't even like complete the exercise. I'm like, just let me do it myself in my head. That's funny.
That is funny. That is so funny. Yeah, and it just straight goes back down to learning styles, right? Like Chelsea's brain receives information in a different way than yours does, and that's totally okay. My job as a presenter is to work on presenting information in all the different ways so that everybody's learning styles are being met, right? So, yeah.
Story about this. So I was doing a birthday for Tylen. This was when he was like 6, so it's been several years. And I had bought these really cool balloons that had lights in them. And I was trying to figure out how to like make them function, right? So I had the little Chinese instruction page that was like half English and it had pictures and I stared, it's like this big and there was like 3 steps, okay? I stared at it, I'm not kidding, for probably like 30 minutes. And I was like, I cannot figure out what this is saying. And I'm like, Dave's gonna have to come home. And I just threw it and I was so mad. And he came home and he picked up the paper and he's like, Chelsea, pull out the tab, blow up the balloon, tie it in a knot. That was it. It's like, I cannot like see a picture. I cannot do it. These are so hard for me. Yep. I envy your ability.
That's funny. Yep, I know. But if somebody was right next to you showing you how to do it, then you'd be like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah. I felt like an idiot. Oh, uh-oh. She froze again. Oh, she's back.
Hi guys, I'm back. So fun. Yeah. Okay. So right. So Chelsea's balloon example, right? It's like, it's so frustrating when we're trying to learn something in a way that is not suited to our strengths. So Chelsea probably would have learned better in that environment had somebody shown her actually what to do, which I think is what Dave did when he came home. He's like, do this and then this and then this. And then she was able to figure it out. So with that, Tasha, and again, I don't know what it is that you're pondering, but what are you learning from this whole experience today, or this conversation today, that may help to change how you're approaching what you're trying to learn, or the confusion that's inside of you, like, so that you can help to decrease that confusion and be able to learn something a little bit better?
I don't know. I have to think about it.
Draw yourself
Okay.
a picture about what she just said.
I know. That's what I'm like. How do I make a picture of this? So now I'm confused on how to make the pictures to
Okay.
make sense.
So if I let me see. Dang it, you guys, on my phone today, I cannot draw a picture for you. But Tasha, if I was in your shoes, I would.
Oh,
Oh, shoot.
she would.
We're so excited to know what you're gonna do.
You guys, this is exciting. You never know when I'm gonna leave or when I'm coming back. Oh my gosh. Okay.
You're just
No,
trying
Tasha,
to
I
build
was
up
gonna
the
say,
suspense.
I know. I'm keeping you on your toes today. Keeping you on your toes. Is it working? I love it. Okay, so what I was gonna say about this, Tasha, to help you ground this and to learn this a little bit better is if I was in your shoes, I would just simply get out a piece of paper and keep it simple, right? But like I would draw a little stick figure that represents you. And I would just draw like a box on the side, right? And this box could represent like a pretty picture, or you could just kind of draw little squiggles like, oh, like my eyes are seeing these words, or my eyes are seeing pictures and things that help to represent stuff. And then you could even, I mean, I would draw like one of those kind of curvy lines from the box with the pictures into your brain. And maybe another line from your eyeballs over to that box, so that just kind of completes that cycle, right? Like pictures get into your brain quicker, and your eyes need to see those images in order for you to make sense of things.
Okay.
That's simply an example of something that I would do to help ground this.
Okay. I'll
Chelsea,
try
do you have
it.
any other thoughts?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, the only other thing I was thinking of is the one day when we were talking about visualizing.
Yeah.
And Tasha was having a hard time with it. I had been reading my scriptures, and there was a scripture about like the whole process in the scriptures, and I sent it to her, and you were like, oh, I understand now. Like I like seeing it in the scriptures is what you said. And even having the words, I think helped, like being able to see the words helped you to understand the concept. So even if you have to like write the instructions or something and read them with your eyes, more than just hearing them or something, that might help.
Okay. I'll
Yes.
give that a try.
Spot on. Yeah. So for example, let's throw in another analogy, right? Like again, if you don't know how to get a spot out of like some clothes, and somebody's just auditorily, verbally telling you, oh, just do this and then this and then this, and you're like, what? Or if you're like doing the actual thing and that's still not quite helping you learn, you actually just you just need to see those instructions, like 1, 2, 3, do this and then this and then this, and it would probably click a lot better for you. Chelsea and I would be like, no, we need to like get our hands messy and just do it, for us to learn. That's the best way that we learn. Yeah. So I think that's what happened with Chelsea that day, is she sent you like, hey, here's these visual prompts, it's been written down for you so that you can visually take it into your brain, and that helped you. Like visual cues help me. Like I read things, but it's fascinating, you guys. I'm going to pull this book out because it's right next to me, and anyway, this is my Think and Grow Rich book. Okay, I'm going to show you guys. This is the way a kinesthetic learner reads the book. Can you see all those highlight underlining things?
So
This is
true.
kinesthetic learner right here. Because I can read a paragraph 300 times, and if I'm not moving, it doesn't get into my brain as much. So like even just like tapping my leg or moving my hand or walking, like marking the page, that's a kinesthetic movement, and it gets into my brain much quicker, because then I'm like, oh, because then there's colors in there, and it's like this experience of reading this passage, you know, and then I'm like, oh, you should look at my scriptures too. I'm like constantly highlighting and underlining all the things. And I learn the best by applying things. Like, so if I'm trying to learn a concept from the scriptures, the best way that I learn is by practicing and trying and putting it on, versus just visually seeing it again and again and again in the scriptures. But Tasha, you're different. Like, you visually seeing something written in the scriptures gets it into your brain quicker. Chelsea and I have to like actually do the thing for it to make sense to us.
Well, now I'm thinking I need to figure out how my children learn, even though they're pretty much all gone.
No, it's super helpful, right? Super helpful.
Is
Yeah.
there like a good source to go to help with the learning styles?
That's a great question. The person that taught me these things is a common friend of Chelsea's and mine. Her name is Laurel Houston. She has I know you're not on Facebook much, but she has a Facebook group, and she does live trainings every Monday. And she talks about the different parts of the body. And the cool thing is with our learning styles is she actually teaches you like she helps you to measure different parts of your body to understand what's like, if they have any special significance in your life. So visual learners generally have bigger set eyes than other people. And auditory learners usually have bigger ears than other people, because that's where they receive more of their information. For you, your eyes may be a little bit bigger than some other people, but she teaches you how to measure all these different parts of your body against your own body to figure out if your eyes are larger or smaller than the average eye. And if they're larger or smaller, then it's significant, because it tells you how you receive information. And so that's how I learned it. And it was just really cool, because I can look at people's faces now and I'm like, oh, instantly. I mean, it's taken me years to learn these things, but I can look at somebody's face generally and say, you're probably a visual learner, or you're probably a kinesthetic learner, just by looking at their faces. So she's my resource when it comes to learning styles. So I'd recommend you joining her Facebook group and watching her training videos. I will add you to the group.
Okay.
Oh,
What does it say if you have a larger nose?
So your nose has to do with money, not so much with your learning style.
So if it's bigger, you make more money?
Well, great question.
I have to go watch. I think she has the video about noses on there.
I think
Really?
she does.
Might have
Yep.
done, if you search, I know you can search the page. She might have one that she did about learning styles. I can't remember if she did one, but she usually does that. So my guess is it's probably on there. I wonder, like, you could do the same thing that Jackie just did too, and ask the same kind of situation. Like, if you were going to learn this thing, how would you want to do it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, people pretty much know, like, oh, it would be way easier for me to like start making the cookies. That would make more sense than just reading the recipe or hearing someone give me instructions, you know? So you can do that same kind of thing with your kids. And most of the time, especially if they're an adult, they kind of know how, like, they kind of know how they learn. They might not be aware that that's their learning style, but most of the time they have a preference.
Yeah.
See if there's some kind of something online. I'll look while you keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's stuff online, but I haven't looked that information up. So, and I think Chelsea's spot on. Kind of like what we just did with you, Tasha. It's like, okay, do you learn better this way or this way or this way?
Yeah.
And you know. Yeah. Yeah. Super helpful. Super, super helpful. Okay. Let's see. Is there anything else that that you would like to share about any of the specific things that you are pondering and working through right now when it comes to like the confusion side, right? And like finding that clarity that you need.
I mean, I don't think so. I think a lot of my confusion is, well, I don't know. It's just like a lot of things. Like it starts with my mom, right? Not saying that I'm not doing the things I'm supposed to because of my choice. And now I have like a friend who's decided to like leave the church because of certain things. But her things are she gets hung up on like small details.
Oh,
And my mind can't wrap around that because to me, there's such small details. Like I look at the bigger picture of things. And so to me, I don't see how that small detail like changed the bigger picture.
yeah.
And so that's where I'm confused going, okay, you're willing to throw everything out the window because of some tiny little thing when right here's the bigger picture. Like this is how we should be looking at things. And so my brain just can't like comprehend. Like it's just like, what?
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But then part of you is confused because then you hear what your mother said, right? Like, you're not doing what you're supposed to, you're whatever. And you're like, wait. And then you go back to like, but no, I'm not hung up on the little details, right? Like, I'm looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just go back and forth into confusion, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So I learned this is a really helpful tool that I've never actually quite 100% done before. And again, this comes from the Bob Proctor training that I'm in this week. You know, it's always like, hey, I'm learning new things. I'm going to share them with you guys. So Bob mentioned in the training that I watched, one of his trainings from this week, but he says that when you have a problem, like write your problem down, like write it out so that you can get it outside of you. And I think this would actually be really powerful for your learning style, Tasha. So you could either draw a picture of your mom's messages and her voice, or you could just write out like, my mom is telling me these things, right? And like, this is my main problem. And like, write it extensively, you know, so that all the nuances and all the little bits and pieces are coming up and out so that it's outside of you. Because then once it's on a paper, and let's say it's just a paragraph, maybe it's a full page, maybe it's 3 pages, I don't know, whatever it is, but you have this problem that's visually in front of you on this paper, right? And you can see this problem now. And then what you can do is you can actually come at it from a different angle, and you can ask yourself, okay, how would Christ look at this problem? Or how would my inner child look at this problem? Or how would my grandparents look at this problem? Or whoever, like you can plug in anybody or any scenario, any perspective, and change your perspective about the problem. But I think visually, like getting it outside of your brain and putting it on a paper so that you can visually see it would be really, really powerful for you, specifically with your mom. You could do it for both situations, right? Because especially if it's like she's dumping all this crap into your brain, then it creates kind of a whirlwind of negativity. But if you can get that outside, and even if you drew like a tornado, right, of like, this is how it feels, that helps your brain to understand what's going on so much better, and then things would click, and then you can find solutions a lot easier when you're coming from that perspective.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
I did
Cool.
this. Laurel actually had me do this about money one time, and she had me write down like my mom taught me.
Mhm.
My mom taught me about money. My mom taught me money is, or whatever. Like,
Yep.
my dad taught me that money is, or something. And it was like really, really fascinating to see where my money stuff comes from my mom and what comes from my dad, because they're completely different, like completely different. And knowing, like being able to see the difference and like having that not just be like a part of who I am, but like being able to identify has been like super helpful when I'm trying to make choices about what I'm spending my money on. And like, because I hear those thoughts and I'm like, oh wait, but that's my mom. My mom is telling me that that's not okay. It's not because that's how I feel or what's really true, but it's like been able to like separate it from myself, you know, and like what I actually believe. So that's a cool exercise to do.
Awesome.
I'm just afraid I don't know if I could distinguish the difference between my mother and dad and what they taught me.
You can.
It was
You can.
yeah,
My
it
dad
wasn't
didn't say a whole lot about things. It was usually my mom.
it
He still
wasn't a
taught you
thing
things.
that was I
Go ahead.
remember like it wasn't stuff that I remembered. It was stuff that came like intuitively.
Oh, was
Like
it?
it wasn't specific like memories. I mean, some of it, part of it was like looking back after I wrote it all down, I was like, oh my gosh, I can see how that's what I learned from what I saw.
Hmm.
But I just like let myself write. It wasn't like, okay, I have this and this and this example. It was just like, okay, what did she teach me? And I just wrote. So I do that a
That's
lot. So if
cool.
that's not like a really familiar practice, then maybe that wouldn't work. But um yeah, I just let it come out.
Yep.
Okay.
Power of journaling.
Yeah, and you like journaling.
Absolutely. So good. Okay. Let's circle back to Chelsea's challenge, right? That you came up with as you were journaling there for a minute. Okay. So the how of pulling together $2,500. So first question for you, Chelsea, is it required that you pay the full $2,500 to do the training, or do they have other ways to pay for it?
I don't know. I was gonna look into that. I had that thought this morning because I had texted Jackie, the other Jackie,
Yep.
about it yesterday. And then this morning I was like, oh, I wonder if they have any sort of assistance or scholarship kind of a thing. So I was gonna look into it. I just quickly looked on my phone yesterday when I found it.
Yep.
And I was trying to think of what else I could do. I'm like, if our taxes come back in the next 2 weeks, like that would help. But I have no idea if that'll happen or not. So I'm like, okay, I need a backup plan. And most of the time, like the last few times that I've needed to like get a bunch of money, I've like pre-sold hair services, which I quit doing. So I don't want to do that. Like, so I'm just, I'm sure it will come. I know it will come because I know why I need to do it. I just, yeah, I'm sure the answer will get to me.
Okay. So it's beautiful that this is the thing that showed up for you, because we're all learning from each other so much, right? It's like everything that you guys bring up, like it teaches me so much more about how to change my life, right? And so, because we all have different chapters and corners of our lives and things that we need to always be working on. And it's just part of our human condition. Like when we know what we want and we're going for it, like our brain automatically goes into, well, how am I going to do it? How's this going to work? How's the money going to show up? Right. And if we stay stuck in the how, then we stay stuck, because you're trying to solve all the problems between A and Z. And so your number one job is for you to stay in the space and the energy of it's complete, it's done, it's paid for. But that's going to like trigger and activate and bring up to your conscious awareness, like, well, how? Like it kind of creates this tennis match, right? So anytime that you feel that or sense or notice that, like, well, how's it going to work out? Like, just talk to that voice, because it's just our ego side of us. It's like, it's the side of us that has to like control and figure all the things out. But that stops the flow of faith. And so your main job when that shows up is to come back into the energy of, well, it's all taken care of. Like 100% taken care of. And it showed up and it worked itself out and it was beautiful. And it was so inspired, right? Like I couldn't have done this any better, from that kind of a space. So let's help you get into that space. And then I want to hear how that feels for you. So I want you to think forward, like, I don't know, maybe a month. So let's just fast forward a month and pretend that you're there for, I don't know, it's middle of June and it's all worked out. The money completely showed up. You were able to pay it in full and it felt easy. It felt so easy to pay this in full. And the money came from a place that you hadn't anticipated, right? And you're just like, oh my gosh. And it felt so enlivening for you to receive this money and then to use that money for this beautiful training that you're desiring to engage in. And you feel so supported and nurtured through this whole process. And guided and led specifically from divine sources. So as you come from that space, like just observe how you feel. Observe your body, observe what you're noticing inside your mind and your heart, your body, like just share with us how you would label what's going on. Like, do you feel relaxed? Do you feel peaceful? What do you notice?
Both peaceful and calm.
Okay. What else?
Happy.
What else?
Joyful. Excited. Grateful. Humble.
Okay. You know me, I can feel energy pretty sensitively. So it just, as you sat with that, like it just started tearing me up. Because it feels so good, even just to be on the witnessing and observing end. So this is your number one job, to stay in that space as much as possible. Doubts are going to show up, fear's going to show up, like the how, the what if, the whatever, right? But your main job is to stay in. It's all worked out. Like, God's got my back. He came through, the money came through. It totally worked itself out, and it's just been beautiful to be a part of this. That's your number one job. You can work on surrendering the house as soon as that house shows up in your brain. Honestly, take it to God, take it to Christ, and just surrender it to them and say, I don't know the how. That's your job. My job is to listen. My job is to stay in this beautiful space and then to listen. And not just listen, but like those nudges, those promptings that you get, the intuitive thoughts of like, maybe I should talk to Jackie about scholarships. Follow through on that. That may or may not lead somewhere, but follow through on that, right? And then keep listening. Keep coming back to this beautiful space and keep listening. And then following through. That's your only job.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Yay. So good. Okay. So I want to hear from you, Chelsea. Like, what are you learning from that, as well as Tasha? Was there anything that you also learned from that?
I guess this is a different, like I've worked through stuff like this before, but this is a different way of thinking through it. So I'm excited to see like how the process feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. It'd be cool to see what happens. So you're staying open and curious is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Tasha, go ahead.
For me, I think I felt like this was more Chelsea's thing, and I could fully feel like her in that space. Like even my heart was like excited, going, I can totally feel the peace.
Me too.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's cool. And what a cool thing to observe on your end, Tasha, right? So like to just simply be aware, like that's how energy transmits itself from one person to another. You guys, we are far away from one another physically in distance, the three of us. I mean, Chelsea and I are closer than Tasha, but like we're all still miles and miles and miles apart from one another. And Chelsea, your intention, like you impacted both of us. We both felt it. And it's beautiful to witness on the receiving end, right? And we're like, oh, and we're both holding space for you. This is totally possible. Like that's what I heard with Tasha's comment, right? It's like she can sense that she's present with you in that peaceful, grateful, everything's worked out space. And so am I.
Yay.
Yeah, right? So much better because you don't have to do it alone. Yay. So good. So beautiful, you guys. Okay. Well, we're coming up to the hour, so let's go ahead and kind of wind down and wrap up. I would like to give you guys some space just to check in and see what was a gold nugget that you learned from today for your own personal life. What was it that kind of was like, oh, that was intriguing? Or what do you want to remember about today's call? And this goes back to learning style. So Tasha, I want you to write it out and like share it in the chat because that's going to be better for your brain. And Chelsea, I want you to verbally share because that's better for Chelsea. And no pressure. You guys can take a couple minutes to just process and think through that.
I think probably just doing that exercise and like feeling how that felt and like how can I apply that in other areas of my life, you know, with like stuff with my kids or, you know, in general, just like things that I'm struggling with, to help find that peace, because that's been a thing that I've been searching for a long time, that we've talked about, but yeah.
Awesome.
Stay
Yeah.
mad.
Okay, so my thoughts in response to that is that's a natural desire for us, right? As soon as we learn a really powerful principle to apply it in all the areas of our life. I'm going to caution you though to focus on learning this just with this one this one thing right now, so that you can be building the skills. And then as soon as those skills get, or the muscles, as soon as those muscles get strong enough, they will naturally flow into the other aspects of your life.
Awesome.
Yeah, because our brain gets, if we're like, oh, I need to do this for all the things, even though that's our desire. So honor that desire because that's showing up for a reason. That's life moving through you. That's a good thing. But also calm your brain down and say, okay, we're focusing on one thing. Like just this one thing. We have this course and it's already done and taken care of. And I love it. It's been beautiful to be part of this process. God's totally got my back, like whatever those words are, right? Because as your faith grows through this process, you'll then be able to take it into those other areas naturally rather than forcing it.
Sounds good.
Good. Okay. Let's see what Tasha had to say. Okay, so Tasha was learning about her learning style and using it to solve